I mean, I'm not trying to solve the problem of humanity today, but some things have to make us reflect about our frustrations, our feelings, why we have nostalgia for certain things. We don't know what name to give to them. You know, when you are involved and you stop overthinking things because you just are in a box. The laptop is a box. The smartphone is a box. You know, if you start thinking out of the box, but not as a meme in Instagram, as a like getting involved into the space, then you can work out more things. Going back to photography, my relation with the landscape is that I like the idea of observing it in order to get back the present day of our identity. So to exactly know where we are, because I have an idea of where we started. So it's like when you navigate, you need other 2 points to triangle and find your point and your direction. So it's a way to keeping it simple as possible, to bring up the not the right reflections, but to bring up some reflection we can share and discuss about.
Welcome to the show, Pietro.
Hey, thank you. I'm very happy to be here.
Of course. So right before we start, just go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience and tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your practice, and then hopefully we can dive in as the show works, dive into some images and kind of talk about a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So as Patrick said, I'm Pietro Motisi. I'm Italian. I was born in Sicily 41 years ago in Palermo. And, my life has been like plenty of very, very, very nice things I've been exploring before joining photography, which happened like 21 years ago, because I started taking photographs in 2002. Before that, I studied music, classical guitar, I studied trumpet, and I became like an electrotechnician, thanks to a degree. I studied natural science at the university. I was a teacher of music for a few years. And so that all things just were something about myself in a way now I recognize as my curiosity toward the words, toward things works. And what basically happened is that I was curious about the medium of photography, just technically in the beginning. So I was curious about the process, how the black and white film was working. So my first purpose in the beginning was just to have a camera and a film in order to understand how to develop and print a picture. I was not really interested into the picture itself. So I was more focused on the technical object, which was nice. And at that time, I was a student in natural science, so my first subjects were just like a little macro photo of flowers and little things, or friends, day trips, nude girlfriends, stuff like this. And after that, the process was a little bit mine. So, I started like looking at the camera, and from kind of being aware of the process, then I slowly stopped looking just at the camera, and I started looking toward the camera, what was in front of me. Started a little bit of questioning what to do with it and what was interesting to do. And it took me a long time, and it was a long journey. In the beginning, for example, I got interested in theater thanks to some friends that used to live in Palermo. So they basically became my first subjects when they were rehearsing the works. I was there with the camera, and it happened with one of those places and a place that in the time I was together with other guys, renting a big space, offering spaces for artists to exhibit works. It was our music school as well, and they could rehearse and make plays as well. And it happened that I set up my darkroom in this place, and with the group of guys that then afterwards we've been together doing theater for quite a while. I finished my film, and they were not expecting I had a darkroom in this place. So I said, okay, guys, I go in the bathroom to develop the film, and I see you in a bit. And they were like, what? And they said, yeah, there is a darkroom installed in this place too. So I would be happy for us if you care, if it's nice for you as well, to develop the film and to see some prints. And that was like April 2004. April, May. And it was nice and surprising because all of them were coming from art schools, academy and stuff like this. So they were quite aware more about art, and they were quite sensitive about photography as well, which I wasn't, because I didn't have at all any culture, apart from the most famous things that almost everyone in this world knows, background photography and stuff like this. And the nice thing was that the first pictures that came out from this darkroom after this play were the pictures that made me winning my first prize in 2 months after in photography. So it was like a Sicilian prize, the first edition of a photography prize. And of course, that gave me a little bit of spark and a little bit of motivation and excitement about the medium and about the thing that I should probably go ahead and keep doing, because I was able to do something nice with the camera. I was driven by also my bigger love for painting and for Caravaggio at the time, for example, that was helping me a lot to be able to see through the tableaux that were forming in front of me during a theater play. So I was trying to make my Caravaggios frame, in a way.
Yeah, you can see it in some of your work. That dramatic light, Yeah.
Oh, yeah. In some of the old works, yes. But what is interesting, and a critic of photography, Silvana Turcio, was telling me once in 2014 in an exhibition I did near Genoa, was that interestingly, because I never told about this before. She said that I used the space as if it was like a stage, and I use those panels that I use my composition in a way that drive the vision, and usually those panels that are like the black or the light or the stages, like the forms and the buildings in the stage. And she said that this is a way that remain to me and with me probably when I deal with space and when I read the space to frame it. And that's very interesting. So I think it was true, and it's something that I do without really thinking about that, but it's a kind of approach I have with the space in order to make it harmonic for me to be fixed.
Makes sense.
Basically after a couple of more years, thanks to a girlfriend who was a journalist and a student of theater, we were able to go around Italy and photograph nice theater play. So after 2 years, in 2006, I won my second prize, which was a national prize for stage photography. And I started making collaborations with the local newspaper or theater magazines like In Scena, that now doesn't exist anymore. It was very exciting. That was happening up to 2008, more or less, when in Italy there was a big crisis of theater. A lot of big theaters closed down, like Teatro Valle in Roma, Teatro Argentina, but many other little places around, very big crisis. And of course, if there's big crisis in the theater photographer, the young theater photographer, has not much space to work. So in the meanwhile, in Sicily, I started being assistant with a photographer who still today I call him maestro. It was like parentheses of 4 or 5 years. And he used to do a lot of studio photography with commercial products and mainly artworks. And that was very nice as well because I could touch so many artworks with my hands, preparing them in the studio for photographing. And that was already exciting for me. Very good opportunity to be, or your own with some paintings that sometimes you can like also really love, instead of just being a normal guest of or a visitor of a museum. I could have the opportunity of touching and being in relation with the paintings, and of course learning how to illuminate and photograph them technically. So we used to spend a lot of time doing this. We did couple of catalogs, one for the Gallery of the Modern Art in Palermo in 2007. It's a big catalog, and it was all shot in film with a large format camera, and it was very exciting. And I did the light of all this work, and of course he was working with the camera, and it was like 1 month and days working inside the museum, just me and him before it was opening. And at the same time, I was trying to work with the newspaper, doing a little bit of reportage. But you will see afterwards when you see my photographs, I never felt very comfortable with with doing reportage in the classical way or documentary photography in a kind of journalistic approach. So then started the crisis also for me, which was not just about money, but the theater, even if in 2008 I won the last prize that was never reorganized in Italy about the stage photography from a publishing house in Pisa, in San Miniato. It's called PT Bindus. It was doing this prize called Occhi di Scena. Well, I started thinking that the stage was there and was this little space, and I was in the darkness. I was like a privileged observer, and I knew with my camera that something was going on in front of me anyway. So I started like being critic toward this position, and I decided it was not enough for me because I was just privileged. I knew that something was going on. Once everything technically is set up and you sort out certain problems, in any show, more or less, you will take home your pictures. So for me, that was not anymore that challenging. And that brought me outside, exploring the outer world, trying to compose the theater of life. And that was more challenging because you are not in the darkness, you are visible, your movement, your camera is visible. Technically, you have to deal with several things. Not all the people are there acting for you, but they're just living their life, and even the spaces and everything, the wires, the cars parked somewhere, the dirt. So then became everything more interesting for me. And seeing that interest, a friend of mine from Sicily, from a little town near Palermo, who graduated in the same school I did afterwards, he saw that into me, and he suggested to try to be taken in Wales into this school in Newport for the course of documentary photography. At that time, they were still like taking, I think, 40 people per year. And that documentary, they had this university, the UWN in Caerleon, which is a small ancient Roman town near Newport in South Wales. And this university was founded in 1912. And since that time, they had like the teaching of photography already. So which is very interesting. But in 1973, David Harn, the Magnum photographer who is famous for a lot of daily life in South Wales, but maybe mainly for some photographs of the Beatles in Abbey Road studio, or the famous portrait with the gun of Sean Connery in the first 007. He decided to leave this gift to his town, setting up this photography course in 1973. So basically I applied for it, and it was very nice. It was very exciting for me. I prepared this little portfolio to take with me in small prints because I was traveling from Tuscany to Newport, and it was a long journey. So I had this meeting with these three tutors all together in front of me. I was like shaking with my little portfolio. It was like, of course, one part of theater photography, and then I spent time preparing for that, photographing a Ghanaian African community in Palermo for a few months. And I think the third part was just black and white personal projects I did between Palermo and Florence. It's a project you've never seen. It's called Today Today. But a lot of people at that time criticized it to me, saying that was not good photography and stuff like this. But after years, and then we will end up talking again about this because it's interesting. After years, I go back into those pictures, and I look at the picture. I said, "Wow, that's interesting." Yeah.
It's the hindsight. They say that hindsight is 20/20. When you look back, you're like, "Oh, that was where that came from." Yeah. And I bet it's interesting to kind of see it all together. All these moments of your life together, especially when you have a long photographic career. But continue. It's wonderful.
Yeah. I mean, there are two different speeds when you see old works. For a long time, once I found my actual language, which is the one that I feel very connected to and makes me feeling like my photography. I consider all the other work like the side that was like building the invisible structure to hold everything together. And this is true because it's a path, and at the same time, it's a structure you build. Is a vision that is made not just of an impact, but it's made of like a lot of little things. It was a nice thing that Henri Cartier-Bresson was saying about the dance of the photographer when in a chapter of one of his book, I think it's called the imaginary from truth. I have the Italian version, so I'm not sure this is the correct English version. It's interesting because he was telling a story about the photographer. He was in America to photograph an important funeral, and he said that he saw a young photographer photographing, and he recognized he was doing good work just because of the way he was moving in the space, stepping in, stepping out into situations. And so all those like bits of things that surrounds the practice are the structure that make. And then you, of course, use the photographs. You have the old photographs to recognize how far or how close you were from things and how you approach, how you were shy towards some people, or sometimes when like behind this thing and you were able to do otherwise and to find contact the way you were doing it. So it's like it's a big block notes of your experience from one side.
How long did it take you to find your visual language? Did it take you a long time? You said it's like when you look back at that, you see these as like little pieces that contribute to that. You said, what is your visual language now that you're the most comfortable with? How long did it take you to get there?
Well, since I started, when you usually start doing shitty things.
I have a lot of that.
Everyone has. The secret.
I'm like, oh my God.
Oh, no, don't see that. Well, now I'm quite fine with that as well, and happy to smile with friends about looking little flowers, and some are nice too. Well, I always say that when I approached the school in Newport, I had enough of Italy as well, and I wanted to be away, and I wanted to become a professional. I had this word in my mind, and so I meant that the UK was the perfect place for business, for professional things, for stuff. And instead, the funny thing was that I wanted to be a professional, and this course, the people can grant Paul Rees and Clive Landon, the three tutors of the course, they made of me an author instead. So they fed my imaginary, and they fed my intention in order to make me able to find my own path into visions, which is not just about visual things, but it's a lot of stuff. So I took back like music experience, poetry, and so I became friends. Life took me to become friends with writers, anthropologists, and so I realized that I didn't want to make a profession out of photography, because then it became something very, very connected with my soul, and of course, maybe because I'm completely not an able person to make business out of nothing.
I love that idea. They turned you not an image maker, but an author. To think about photography as authoring something. What do you mean by that? That's deep.
Because the thing is, there's always like this nice thing that you feel embarrassed when someone tells you, so you're an artist, it's funny, it's nice. And I also question myself.
I struggle with it too.
But I also question why we get so embarrassed about this. It's just because we don't mind, because we are focused on the crafty parts of it, even if we're talking about feelings. So the label is artist is a bit heavy. Because today we are plenty of nostalgia and melancholy. When I started studying, it was like 15, 16 years ago. We studied like the big photographers, the masters of photography. Now, after this time, I'm 41, I'm not anymore a young photographer, even if many people want to tell me like I'm a photographer and that maybe you look young, okay. But this story, this era of humanity doesn't allow us to be the main actors of our. I think this is something that impacts into the society in a way that, in a wide range of existence. Because, in politics, in a lot of things, it's just about finding a way to get the access into something and then make profit out of it. So I'm not going to complain because of that, but I don't like all this focusing into the mainstream, having just a Steve McCurry exhibition going all around the world continuously, and the same with the WordPress photo. I don't want to give anything out to them, Okay, it's one part of the wall, but it's not the wall, And it looks like this is like even energetically taking all the space, and agencies are not working anymore because press photography went down in a way. So who was in is in, and now with inside, it can be there, but engagements are not that good in terms of money anymore. People are happy to be featured on Vogue, but you just send a picture for free just to be on Vogue and to be happy to be there, which is totally fine. I'm not complaining for that. But this is kind of ruining a little bit the role of photography in terms of profession. So I think the thing is not just to give back the right dignity or in terms of money, income to photography, but just trying to spread in a better way photography culture. I think that's more important, because we can say that it's because of digital and that. But if you read the story of photography, in the beginning, photography started as an amateur things for rich people that could afford a camera. and they were just rich, or they were doing other things. Lewis Carroll was a teacher with children and was a mathematician. So I was just curious about the medium. He did gorgeous photographs, but he was an amateur photographer. And so from the story of photography, we should probably say that photography was, most of its existence in the last 100, maybe 50, 60 years, was most of the time on the hands of amateur photographers. And in just a little parenthesis from the 60s, from the 50s, or if we want to exaggerate, from the 30s, since like Leica went out with his camera. So Edward Weston, Tina Modotti started, stopped using the big tripod camera, and they started having the reportage camera. So from the 30s, if we want to be good, to the 70s, 80s, the great photojournalism, then photography became professional in the way we meant, and we still mean today. But that's not just it, it's just a parenthesis. And then all the rest is just about what was judged recognizable or not, because of the path of the artists. Edward Weston was close with the community part, the communism party in Mexico, and he was traveling to Paris, meeting a lot of other artists and critics. So sometimes photography can be very interesting, but some other times it's just a matter of where you live and where you go, and who you know to make something interesting more than something else.
You're saying something that's really interesting. Like, and I always think there's like a pendulum effect that happens in society. Like you go from extremely professional. I'm just saying like one extreme to the other, right? You go positive, negative, just back and forth. And like it started out amateur wise, it went extremely professional. And then now we're, in the iPhone era where these cameras everybody has a high resolution camera now in their pocket, at least in the West, but it seems like we're surrounded by cameras now, and everyone is a photographer, and photography's back in the hands of the amateur. And so it's like, I think it's quite interesting. Do you think that affects the way we look at things today? It's like, now that everyone can do it, what does an image mean anymore?
The thing is that from what I was trying to say before, that is at all like I'm not going to destroy any words of any existence. I mean, I am aware of this, but I'm just like trying to talk about those things in a critical way. So just trying to put
absolutely
light on these things, trying to reposition us where we are. So from that thing, I believe that digital cameras and mobile phones and smartphones now, they brought back photography to its amateur origin, because it's a game. But the overexposure of several things, not just photography, even because the problem with a smartphone for me is not that it's not the camera, is the thing that is a para world that builds around you, giving you the illusion of living something that you are not into, because you are not involved into any space. You're just mirroring yourself into a piece of glass.
Fascinating.
That worries me much more, because I didn't tell you, like, when I was studying photography, then I discovered to be a craftsman. So, and I started working with leather, and that was just because I don't come from a wealthy family, and so I was working as a waiter to be able to pay the studies. But I recognized that I couldn't do it because I couldn't be focused and concentrate, and also I couldn't work in the weekend because I wanted to take photographs, to be in the darkroom. So working 10, 11 hours per shift in Saturday and Sundays just to allow myself to pay the rent was not worth what I was doing in my pub. So strangely happened that from a bag I designed without any intention of being a designer for my cameras. A man became mad, strangely mad, into a photo lab, looking at the bag. And he just did a stupid question, and they did a stupid answer. So he said, "Can you make it to me?" And I says, "Yes." and then they said, "Oh, fuck." But what happened is basically like I used the bag as a model. I put it like in front of me, and instead of taking a picture of it, I tried to understand how it was made. And imagine like every single piece. I bought the materials, and it took me 4 days to make the first one. The first one then became like the third one, the second, the third one, and then I realized I could make some money out of it. And that in that time, I would say like it saved my life. And it became like the other path I followed, which is not separated from my practice, because looking at phenomena, looking at things, and knowing or starting like questioning and being curious, going around things, walking around them, observing how light impact on them, trying to understand how it's made, and then try to reply them, to remake them. It's a good way of reflecting on things, how things are made, and learning how things are made and learning how to make things is, for me, the best way to stop being distracted. Because most of the people, they destruct things because they don't know how to make them. And it's very easy when you don't know the effort that requires something to be done to destroy. Because it's way much easier to take a big hammer and smash a wall than building it back.
It's fascinating. That's very insightful too. It's I read something about you making bags, like backpacks per se, and one by one, and it was something that you were doing. But it's interesting that this craftsman mentality about making a thing is kind of with you throughout your work. Let's go back to your schooling, where you went and did this documentary class in London, and they taught you how to be an author, and they taught you a little bit about how it is to find your voice. How did you propel after that? What happened to you after that?
Well, many things happened, because through the path that was built in a didactical way along those 3 years. In the beginning, we had to break the ice, with the idea of simplifying things, trying, of course, to make things step by step. So the first assignment were like just simply to represent simple things, to realize the idea into the mind and then to look for it. So like some assignments were like making a portrait of your schoolmate. One assignment was to bring like people at work, photographs of people at work, and questioning around what is the representation of someone that does some work and how to play with the medium. Because of course, there's thousands of ways to photograph and to represent something like this. And in those little steps, they were like trying to push us with questions in a way from technically, so, okay, what do you want to do? Okay, I want to do portraits with those people, and I want to do it or landscape position in black and white. And they were saying, why? What kind of lens you want to use? And all those things, like how technically. And then to the other side, they ask you personally why you want to represent this worker instead of the other. So it's like both a double direction path that goes outside of you, but at the same time it goes inside. So basically, what happened was that I kept photographing people, but suddenly I found myself very interested into spaces and places. But even more curiously happened that um, many places that were with me since a while, since ages, for no reason apparently. Places in my city or just around Sicily, for example, which is one of the places I visited the most, probably, that were with me. They finally found a reason to exist in my life, and in the beginning, I didn't know why. They were just with me in my memory because I one visited city to the other side of Sicily, and there was like my attention was catched by something. And in the beginning, there was just a matter of being there to collect what I think it was mine, and I didn't know why. So I started this process that instead of like taking me in the UK, started like taking me back to Sicily, and I got this first little collection of photographs, and of course it was a simple line of thoughts saying that it was like a set of landscapes, urban or natural, but even natural landscape doesn't exist. It's just a concept. There's nothing natural anymore, almost. So putting all this in the line, that started like being like a personal psychoanalysis. Instead of having someone else to talk to, or an oracle in the Greek times, I had like this bunch of images that were with me in my life since probably I was a child, because I have photographs of places that I keep looking at in a strange way since I was young, since I was a teenager, And strangely, finally, I went back after years to take a photograph of them, and they are meaningful for me. And then it became meaningful for others, but they became meaningful in a wider context of being witness of my time, in a way or another. So, and there was basically this kind of natural process of not deciding everything from the project, but being like circular into this process. So start from an instinct and then read to the cards that you collected, and then look at the cards, and then the cards, they tell you what to do next and where to go. It shouldn't sound like whimsical, probably is, but to be honest, I mean, in the beginning was like this, and now it's the core of my practice, because sometimes when I am around or in a commission, I don't need anymore to look at the pictures, because another interesting thing we can say about the digital era is why I keep in mind, and it helps my practice, because I still shoot in film, and I use a medium format camera mainly, Mamiya 7. So each roll, it's just 10 frames, it's just 10 pictures. I'm probably like one of those nerd people. I'm the one that deny it, because it's easy to think. But I just feel good with this tool. First of all, it's portable, it's compact, and it allows me to work fast enough. But it doesn't have like mirrors, so it doesn't make vibrations, and it allows me to go fast, to go around, and to collect images with a quite big quality because of the frame. Instead of digital cameras, it doesn't get older in 2-3 years. It does the job that it was doing 30 years ago, 20 years ago, and it still does the same.
That's so true. That's so true. You think about the digital kits, they're out of date in 5 years or whatever, and you have to buy another one. That's fascinating.
The shutter doesn't block after a certain number of actuations. And it's there, it's something that doesn't make me anxious. So it's there. It's a tool. It's like a hammer. It's like an anvil. It's like a screwdriver. It does what is supposed to be done, to be doing for the way it's been projected. So it's a light, portable, medium format camera with no vibrations. And I think that does the job I need. To the other side, the thing of the limit, because it's nice, if we think about being a photographer and think about photography as a surface, we have to talk about thresholds. And there is something in front between the photographer and the threshold of a picture, of a photography, but apart from the camera. But of course, there is something behind. Staying in between the photographer and the surface of a photography, of a scene, going through this threshold, for me, as we said before, joking, like, it's important the thing around the feelings. So what was the feeling? I mean, what happened if we figure out a photographer going out around, supposedly, we already know that we are in the place where we want to take picture, blah, blah, blah. But the space outside is analogic. So it's wide. It's 360 degrees in all directions. How would you stop somewhere? Of course, architectural rule and blah, blah, blah. But there's something that stops you that doesn't stop someone else. So there must be something that you feel, thanks to what you see, that stops you. So what a digital camera does is to post-visualize what you shot. And everyone is more concerned about looking at the camera after the shoot instead of doing anything else.
Staying immersed. That's one thing that analog cameras do, is that, that's one thing that it does. It's different.
Then technically, what the other thing is for me is that the analog camera still, that works for me. I don't mean it's something that has worked for everyone. I really believe that it's possible to do great work with the mobile phone camera. So I'm not going to say that my way is their way. So I would never be able to do that and to say that. So I don't believe that. This is just how it works.
No, it's just a different experience. To your point, it's there's something magical about not seeing what it is you took and still kind of being. And I like what you're saying. There's this feeling that drives you to take the image. You take the image. And it's there, but you're not in a digital. You would look and you're trying to see what was in there, but in an analog camera, you just stay in the moment. You're still there. You're feeling the moment, and you're still kind of going with it. And there's just something about that. And so I love hearing that part. And continue if you.
Yeah. The thing is there. It's simple because you're there with. That's how it happened to me. I'm there with all my senses, and thinking about what I would like to find, how I would like to be emotion, and how I can be catched by something. And when I stop somewhere, or something stops me, The matter is that I'm not going to post-visualize, but what is happening really is that I am pre-visualizing what I want to get.
Yeah.
So I can see it before I take it. And that for me is the most important part. Because it's not the matter of what you get, then I can correct afterwards. It's a matter of what stopped me and how I can translate it, even if it's a portion of reality, in order to take it with me and make it working even for the feelings of someone else.
Yeah.
And that makes the difference for me, of course, because I know there are like other friends, photographers, or there's the body of work from other photographers I really appreciate. That is all a matter of study. There's the concept is constantly there, you know. Lee Friedlander, which is one of my favorite photographers, and one of my favorite works of him is called Self-Portrait. And Self-Portrait is from the 1968. So now we talk about selfies, but, you know, also there. People have no clue about what is developing the idea of the concept of a self-portrait. Look at this book, and then we can talk about what a selfie is. You know, the way he developed this kind of project, the way he keeps constantly the consistency of the concept of the self-portrait, and of course is him into the picture, or even like the shadow of him, but this is the self-portrait of a society, which is America. And then all the layers that you can bring out. So this is to say that I do appreciate those artists, those photographers, those lens-based artists that are able to use any tool, because, you know, this work from Friedlander can be done with any camera, with a phone. It doesn't matter. So this is it, basically. So I really appreciate that, the ability of doing it. But I don't feel like I am able to do it. My way is the way to be involved into what I'm doing. That's also why I stopped taking photographs of people. Or I just represent people that are not recognizable. And their figure that recently appeared in my work in the last years, they are just inhabitant of the scene, looking at the scene from giving you the back. And I like to think of them as people that are usually connected with me in that moment, or friends, that they work for my work in order to suggest to people what to do with my pictures. So to look inside and inhabit it.
Fascinating.
That was a secret. Now I reveal.
Well, with that, I would love to kind of take a look a little bit at some of your work. I think this is a good opportunity. You've done a really good job of setting up and teasing our audience with the way you look at photography and the way you take images and the way. So let's take a look a little bit. Where do you want to start us?
Well, I would be happy to start from the end.
Okay. Yeah, let's do that. Let's jump backwards, and we can kind of work our way through it.
Okay.
I love the way you think about images, the way you use representation. You always have something that is interesting to say in each one of your images. A lot of the stuff that I've seen has been really, really, really nice. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of what you got prepared for us today.
Well, we are inside like a folder that is called Gross, and I think for me it's interesting because if we're talking about how a line of a project is developed. Because we usually see in the end the final edit, you know. It is the flow that links to me with the concept of being an author. So every photograph is like a sentence or a word put it in for me in a kind of a flow of a novel or of a discussion. I
Yeah.
mean, every bit, every photograph is a piece of syntax that built my what we can call my discussion about something. You know, it's not a discussion; is a line, is a track, is a knot of critical reflections. What we can see in this folder basically is one of the messes I organized in the beginning, putting inside a lot of things. Now, I mean, I've been working on four projects along the last 12, 13 years about Sicily. And what you're looking at into this folder now is what I keep doing, photographing Sicily. Some things are can you see it?
Yes.
Some things like this one are like from archive. That's been photographed 2 years ago, and it's a church like in southeastern Sicily in the evening. I was commissioned to do a work in a place nearby, but I did it in digital, of course. And I had my camera with me, and which is what I usually do. And this is like one church I decided to take with me. And I still like it, you know. There's things I keep looking at in my archive, and what I do is like to put them together with a flow, and I keep like watching them because I have the feeling there could be a connection. Some photographs then that decide to remain, some other like they appear more weak for me, but not on their own. They just appear weak to be into this kind of flow, you know? And so they basically discarded. This is, for example, one photograph I did recently, probably 1.5 years ago, which I know it will remain. Yes, because I feel it very strong. And I keep looking at them, I keep composing them, even pairing in ways, even just, you know, simply before doing them into prints. I just use them as a points of reflections, trying to understand how I can build the next thing. I can show you like some images for me, like this one, are way heavier and more important than others. And they make me understanding that there's a line of research is about the reproduction of reality, you know? And in that case, this reflection is quite easy to read. And this place is...
Why does this one stand out to you? Why does this stand out to you?
Oh, well...
I know what it does for me, but I'm curious about you. You, the author.
Oh, well, you know, the thing for me is very easy as usual. It's nice to have this display for artworks with this nice frame with the iron going nice line on top, and with very heavy concrete feet, as if like someone should stole it in the night. For no reason. But if you were born in Sicily, you could realize why that people sometimes strangely can ruin or steal pretty much everything, even for no reason. Anyway, even if this nice object is well protected by this nice cube shoes of concrete, there is nothing displayed on it. So for me, it was a way of offering to this space to display something. And this something is a very important spot of a land in a way, because basically, well, it gives, with this light, because the foreground is already not anymore in light, because we are in the sunset, and the backward landscape is still illuminated by the sun that is going down. So there's this kind of nice, lovely effect of the frame inside the frame popping up a little bit, which makes it looking a little bit like a fake thing, or a montage.
Like a postcard in some ways. Yeah.
Yeah. The nice thing for me is inside this little frame, there's two peaks of hills, and you can see in the bottom right corner the white dots of a town, which is called Portraiture. And if you see on the left the other peak, the peak has under it a little brown dots, not easy to recognize, but there's like another small town, old one. Basically, this is Portraiture, and there was an earthquake in the 1968, and the old town on the left peak collapsed. Not all of it, but it was not possible anymore to live in there. And then they built the new one under the right peak, which is odd. So for me was the idea of, there is a little story inside, which I decided to put. It's not relevant for me for the image to be able to be alive on its own, but there is. So that's to mean that I like the idea of the photograph to be universally enjoyable in the way it can be composed. You decide things, how to put the elements, but at the same time, I like the idea of having other layers and other liars as well, because photography is a lie anyway. So,
we're gonna have to get into that. What? No, it's true.
To be able
to
dive in.
I'm just kidding.
So, I think I expose a couple of reasons why, for me, this is a successful one. Because once you open it, I get tired very quickly of my photographs. I am very critical, and most of my friends, they always complain to me because I discard most of the pictures. Probably inside this folder of 3, 10, 12, no, it's like 20 pictures, you will probably never see them again, apart from 3 or 4. So,
well, I feel like this is a privilege right now to see the unthrown away. But no, I read that in an interview for you that you feel that like a lot of your friends get mad at you because the throwaways that you have are a body of work all on their own sometimes, and I thought that was really, really interesting. Why? Do you feel like the final ones that you get there are just what is it about those images that make it to the final version? And do you think about how these are shown, or do you think it like they're going to be books, or do you see them on walls? How does that progress for you?
Oh, well, some photographs. Well, when you build a body of work, you want it to be in a flow. So today, the idea of a flow, it can be, of course, you test it like on your website to share it digitally. And what I usually do is to work on, I can show you like making an example. what I like to do is to mount them as if they were books.
Gotcha.
So, for example, this is a commissioned work I did in Lodi, near Milan, for a festival of the ethic photography. What happened basically is that I did the work and I had only 2 weeks to make it and then to print for the exhibition. And so to be fast, once I got the scans, I put all the images that were standing out for me into a PDF. And in a very simple game, like this one was the opening, because the line of the soccer field was inviting me to go behind the door. There was a wall. So this kind of weird invitation into an unknown place, inaccessible for me, was just the representation of something interesting to open a discussion. And as you can see, like the colors around, this little like squares of color, they make everything very just nice and enjoyable and very light and joyful.
Yeah, this image is one in my research that I kept looking at. And it's just one of those that really stood out to me. I love it.
Yeah, thank you. Going ahead is just simply, color-wise, we're color going together, and this image was suggesting me that would have been nice to have in the double spread of the book, just because the shape of this place was looking already like a page of a book that is spreaded, And thinking of the object, it makes me like making already the game of being inside the pages of the book naturally. There are several suggestions, popping in, popping out of the same word, of the same feeling that repeats itself, like in this image. We can see like it's pretty much the same ingredients working, both in the compositively and chromatically. They represent more or less two ways of saying more or less the same thing.
Gotcha.
And for that reason, I like the idea of having them together to enjoy the difference of different point of views on the same topic.
So this project, what was like the inspiration for it? What were you trying to say with this body of work?
It was nice because the owner of an independent bookshop in Lodi, he knew that in February 2020, before the lockdown, I was around Sicily doing a body of work I called fine, which means hand, about the apocalypse. And he was a bit shocked because he made me a phone call. He wanted to do the exhibition with fine. Sorry. And he said, why you were around in February 2020 before the lockdown doing the work on apocalypse? What did you know that we didn't know?
What did you know? Yeah, what did you know? Yeah.
Well, in the beginning, that made me laugh a lot. And
naturally.
Yeah, because of course, I didn't know that was going on something that we experienced, and that today is something that we are trying to keep far away from our experience. We made mistakes with remembering the age, which year was. It happened, this thing, because in a way, we don't want to really position this experience of our life. The thing is very simple from one side, because I told you, like, I've been friends with anthropologists and writers, and in the last more than 10 years, we've been talking about the collapse of society and the cultural collapse. A collapse of our way of where there is an expression we can use. There's basically something we're observing like a cognitive collapse, which means that our way of living is getting more detached from the real world, the real life, from the world outside, from the elements, from the weather. You know, even if now the weather, I mean, in Sicily, for example, we've been experiencing like summer or spring till now. Now is like we are in the mid of November and we started having a little bit of rain and the temperature went a little bit down. But this is like a big damage. But our cities, the big places of neoliberalism or capitalism, or as you want to call it, but it's like basically places based on the profit, where everything and everyone has to run. They seems to not care, you know, everything has to go as every day. But when you are on the edges of this society or in the edge of the main places, or what you do or what you don't do allow you to reflect and observe and being on the edges of many things, talking with shepherds, with people that cultivate the lands, you realize that there's something wrong going on, or at least there are feelings that makes you feel like we are not doing properly, or even in the worst scenario, it's already too late for rescuing many things. So we've been talking about doing a work about apocalypse with Matteo Meschiari, this anthropologist and writer, since like a couple of years before. And just the lucky thing was that I was able on February to develop this body of work just a few days before. What was the first tangible sign for everyone of apocalypse, you know, which because everyone was able to recognize it. It had effect on every one of us and on our everyday life. So that's why I asked her this question, and he invited me to exhibit this work, Finen, which is not this one you're looking at. Afterwards, it was very nice because he said to me, listen, my grandma died and she left me some money. Instead of buying a Mercedes, I would love to invest it in art. And I would love you to come and make a body of work building a portrait of my city, bringing here your eyes, the same eye you had for making Fine. The curious thing is also that this town, Lodi, which is a city, had the hospital where the patient zero was when they discovered the COVID. And of course, because of my way of dealing with those things, into this body of work I developed in about Lodi, there are no photographs of the hospital.
So this is where the pandemic of 2020 started in Europe, or
yeah.
This is where it kind of began in Europe. Was this town, and you just so happened to be there. That is what. And so you were being pulled into the city before you even knew what was going on, and so. That is fascinating. How did that affect what you were photographing?
Oh, wow. No, that happened just 2 years afterwards. No,
okay.
1 year after, sorry. No. I did the work about Sicily before the pandemic. At that time, they had the pandemic. And so this man, the bookseller invited me to develop a work about this city, which is the same city where everything began.
Gotcha.
Okay. So, yeah. And basically, I did this journey with him along the city in a shooting of like 10 days. And as I told you, like I was mounting the work into this PDF allowing him to like giving me back a bit more of sense into the flow and the building of it. And in the end, the work was enjoyed, and the bookseller liked it a lot, and made an edition of 21 copies of this book, which were all sold, and, plus 3 copies for me, him, and the girl that wrote the text that is together with the. That's him, as I told you. That's him who basically took me around the city, who introduced me to places and people. And in a way, apart from the thing of being into the scene and giving, a suggestion of how enjoying or how being or deal with my practice, I also wanted him to be inside the work on his city. I wanted him to be like one of the inhabitants of this space. This is another case of this like mad world, because on the left there is a statue of Jesus Christ, and on the right there's another inhabitant of the city, which is a guy that goes all the time up and down asking for money to everyone. It's like seen as a kind of icon of the city, and even if some other people reputate him like a madman, but I wanted also him to be in, because just a question, who is the mad one? I don't think he is. So yeah, some other places where like necessarily you have to be inside. This building doesn't exist anymore, and they like destroyed it to build a commercial shopping center just a few months after I took this photograph. So some places became story immediately. So yeah, basically this is how I helped myself into building the flow of images, and of course you're seeing like a final edit which works. But in the same way, I start working on the images I've been showing you. Here there's like another one. As you can see, the mirrors, so thresholds and frame into the frames, a way of it. We were saying before about the theatrical mise en scène of the places, of my position, and some things that come back, even in the reflection, that it looks like you don't understand if it's part of the reflection or part of the surface, and I like this kind of things because you get lost not understanding anymore the space, or probably understanding it more, getting lost, trying not to understand, but just losing yourself. And in the same way, I try to help myself with other photographs. This one, for example, is not going to be in for sure, but I use it as a tool. It's like a background image that supports me into this kind of collection of visions, and you can see how I like to deal with the same concept. I use them as like images like these as tools. When you are like in a workshop and you use a ruler to measure something, and you read like 5 centimeters. Of course, this 5 means nothing, because it will stay in the ruler. You're not going to take the ruler 5 centimeters with you. Then you would use this 5 centimeters into the work you're doing, which can be like gearing, I don't know, 5 centimeters of a part of something you are assembling. But this is my 5 centimeters. And, my ruler, in a way, I know it can sound like a bit strange to say, but it's a space. And some other photographs, then they work in the background as a more weak one, but they drive me into the choosing the right flow. So this is really like what I'm showing you, the structure of certain things. Then several things in a very simple way have to work together, like the colors. I make you laugh. So chromatically, you have to find a flow that works fine along the images, of course. And some photographs, they work well close by and together, some other no. For example, like those two, for me they work lovely. And so, yeah. But this is basically...
So you were talking about earlier how you kind of go off of instinct, and you are and then you play the kind of the cards that are dealt to you. In this current body of work, what are you seeing being dealt to you? What do you see as kind of formulating in front of you here? What's the idea you're playing with?
Most of the landscape before, they are quite wide open. Now I'm concentrating. It's like probably getting older and thinking that nobody wants to understand what you're showing, what you do. It's like probably I'm trying to be more concentrate into the object, so try to underline a little bit more certain messages. We have a big problem of fires in the summertime, and it's a huge problem. But something strange happened. Like I realized that those places, after they burn, they have a kind of sad beauty into them because of the chromatism of the land, the burned land. Sometimes comes out quite fascinatingly, and so I decided to don't make a project on fires, because otherwise I would have made beauty out of something, and that wouldn't help the reflection around it. So, for example, in this case, I decided to put just one. This is one of the photographs that will probably remain, and just only one of fires. The other examples are just, playing around with more simplicity. This is put close by, and I think it's a quite an easy reflection, and the colors of dried flowers in a vase, they recall of on our nature as human beings. And putting them together, for me, it's a little bit of making everyone aware of the thing that is something that happened for our hand. And, it's probably just something mine, but I believe that in the syntax, as we were trying to say before, for someone who is available to go through or to go deep, it's possible to read that message. So, again, I think that the language going into those windows is trying to underline some concept that are around our existence. Uh, Here, for example, the window is just a background that collapses, you know? So it's not going to be a concept of something that repeats itself all the time. And that was like also the first picture I want to show opening with, because, well, I'm quite pleased, even if it's a simple one, but it's very meaningful for me because it's a shop, it's a closed shop closer to the place where I live here. And to be honest, I have no clue about what was selling. I have no idea. The name of the shop is Curiosity. So curiosità is the Italian word for curiosity. And again, it's a window in a window, you know, it's a like frame in a frame. And this is a kind of a spark that gave to me what it would probably be the name of the next project, the title of it. And it's meaningful for me, as we were saying before, about the cognitive collapse of society, trying to question about where we keep our curiosity, and try to find an answer to that question, and try to find out if we keep our curiosity in a dusty, shut place. Right now, I'm going very slow with that, and I'm keeping these images like in a very like high obsession, because I don't think I need to rush until I will feel I have to.
Sure, it's.
But yeah, I don't know if I answer your question, but
No, I think you did. You know, it's. I think it's very interesting to kind of see a work in progress, and to kind of get a look into the way you are putting a body of work together, the way you think about it being shown, and so on. I think it's really insightful, and you're one of my what I have found in common with some other interviews that I have done is it's almost like you're thinking through images. It's almost like you are contemplating life, our existence, our place in the world, our relationship to it. A lot of your early work that I have seen, that's what I felt. And you had this great thing that you said. You said you're talking about your feeling, and I love that. You also do quite a bit of portraiture and some other things that I think is quite strong. Is there any other project that you feel like is some of the best visuals you put together and the best concept that you kind of delivered, as far as idea to execution, and you felt like you did really, really strongly?
ooh,
You just were like, this was the project that was it. The idea is relevant. The imagery lined up. It was perfect.
to be honest, I never think this way.
Never.
Well,
Okay.
I mean, the best project for me, it's the one I will make is the next.
You're doing. Yeah.
I mean, it's just because I live so much close to the work when I'm doing it, that I end up like hating it in a way. In order, like that, I want to get rid of it, you know, till I have enough.
Sure.
So, for what you asked me, before doing Fine, I think this is the third series about Sicily. I did Sicilia Fantasma, which means Ghost Sicily, and it's basically a work done on like following the suggestion of some friends that they complain I always discard very good pictures, and those are basically all the discarded pictures from almost 10 years of photography. which I never used. And I believe in terms of editing, I was lucky because this work for me is probably the stronger of the 4 series I did about Sicily so far. So it's like, he has he holds into itself the power of a romance compared to the others that can be seen or enjoyed as novels. Of course, it's a small project again, but I feel it strong, and I feel this structure quite strong and representative from what I would like to give back as a witness about Sicily, about the present times, and trying to open the door of a more universal enjoyment of photography. So, answer to your question, I'm more excited for what I'm doing next. But of course, after several works and projects, I feel like this works well. And, I'm saying that, I'm not saying that it's not my favorite, because if this work is this way for me, it means that it's a little bit more of an enemy instead of being a friend, because it's something that I have to beat. So I'm not feeling pleased, but I am feeling pleased in order to be trying to find the way of going above it. As well as I'm usually like worried for photographs that are too aesthetic, that then, as we said before, then those images become very suitable for being single prints, for example. Some photographs that sometimes can sell easily, like this one. So this is a photograph that can stand on its own with a lot of strength. It's pretty, it's perfect. When it's perfect, it's perfect.
What turned you off about the idea of an aesthetic photograph? Is it because you often, when I hear you talk about your work, is you think about it as a flow of like you're trying to tell me a story, you're trying to tell me something. And do you feel like when you have an aesthetic image, it just kind of stops the viewer and then they just get stuck there and they don't continue through the process? What is it about that?
No, it's a worry for me. It's a worry for me because I don't think it's a problem of the viewer, but something that stops me too much, worries me a lot, because he set up a very high bar of expectation. Even if in the flow of images, I learned and I realized that you also have to have quiet images and images less powerful, because the language is not made of just like shouted words or important words or intellectual words. We have articles, we have commas, full stops, and question marks. In music as well, the pose is as well as important as notes. So in a flow of images or photographs, you have to rest your eyes, and you cannot be like beaten all the time by like bombs photograph. Sometimes one image like this stops you too much. I mean, at least for me. So I get worried because before, I was joking, but I was trying to say I don't want the aesthetic goes over the story, the meaning. But in the end, I mean, with this image, with the swimming pool on the sand and the she is over there, it's the story is still there. You know, I mean, I was quite joking, but joking, I was saying something true about what I think. So I was happy.
It's a wonderful tension. There's a wonderful tension in the image, and of course, the colors are stunning. So it's I can see how you can be wary of something like that. And
you know, I was happy just when I found the place and I shot it, and then I stopped being happy about these photographs, and then I was happy another couple of times when I sold it.
Yeah, of course,
but
of course,
not for the picture.
yeah.
You know, some other strong images like this, for example.
Wow.
This is a very beautiful photo, and it works very well, and is way more subtle than the other one, because it's something you have the feeling like you can watch it forever. You know.
Yeah, of course.
It's light, it's dreamy, it's tender, it's plenty of good feelings, but at the same time, there's something that, you know, is like one thought in the brain that is there, suspended by light, and it's a small animal, and you don't know if it's well or not, if it's there for a good reason or a bad reason. And the animal is even looking at the observer, you know, he's looking at you. And I wasn't even seen, because as you can see from the image, I took this photograph from a keyhole, and the shape you can see is basically the bottom of the keyhole. There's like the circle missing, which is outside the frame. So I revealed another secret. So this is basically...
what a moment. Yeah, wow, what a moment.
Through a door. And and as we were saying before, some photographs, they work well to be on their own, printed just as prints. They have their own lives, and it's easy for them to become objects. They can be part of a flow, but in the end, when you extrapolated one of the things, it's not a nice thing to say, but it's the truth. It becomes a piece of interior design. So the frame has to fit with the furniture, with the curtains, and
do you? That gets me to the next question. Are you more concerned with telling stories with your images, or do you find yourself making aesthetic work, or or what drives you is really more the story and the moments and do you see what I'm asking you here? You just get lucky sometimes with an aesthetic one, you know, but that's not what your intention was, you know, when you were making the image.
No, but I am very concerned and interested into making. I mean, I think that both things together, they are together, because I wait for the something to happen, which can be aesthetically relevant, but at the same time working on a soul level.
Sure.
So for me, as Nietzsche was saying, aesthetic is important only if there's together some ethic going. Sometimes it can happen that because we work with visual, and you go more easily with aesthetic because of what you see for an impact. This is, for example, the story of this picture. I took it, and I didn't realize how much impact it could have with the others, to be honest. I liked the idea of this mist, and the moment was magic. And sometimes the reasons that make you choosing a moment are not even visible into the image itself, are just about your feelings and the presence and the reason why you're there and you ended up there. So some reasons are really irrelevant, or they absolutely don't occur into the making of the picture itself. But you can have made something which is a record for you from something that is behind the camera, and then it's part of a work. And I was there on purpose for doing a work about apocalypse, of course. So I'm not trying to say that I wasn't aware at all about what I was doing, but I was there working about apocalypse. So a church in the midst of the fog, of course, is something that, with these 3 entrances, the symbolism of a number 3, and the church with the cross that slightly disappears, or it's like the church is going like to completely disappear in the background. All those things, of course, are things that perfectly fit into the topic of apocalypse. But at the same time, I was talking about the other levels, and I did a picture and I had no clue about the impact of this photo. And then I realized, like, luckily I sold like 2 prints out of this image, of this photograph. And the reaction of the people was incredible for me, because I was not expecting it. You know, as I was saying before, some people that get into you and then they give you some feedbacks about what you've done without you expecting what they are saying, even if they are talking about something you know very well or you think you do. So that will happen with this, for example. And this is at the same time aesthetic, but for me it was like a little bit less aesthetic, because it's white. It's like a photograph with not photograph inside, almost, you know.
Yeah, it's almost like a gradient where this thing just kind of emerges. You know, it's it's fascinating, and it kind of speaks to the journey that you've kind of been on. And so, we're running out of time here, and I want to kind of, but it's okay. But we have time for maybe one more project, or say, and I loved your portraiture, your portrait work, and you have there was one image that you showed right before we actually got started that I thought was quite powerful.
The portrait.
And you were speaking, you were speaking to you had a self-portrait and a portrait of a man. Yes. Oh. And I'm kind of curious about your approach to a portrait. What is your goal? What are you thinking about? What is it a part of a larger context of the project that you're trying to say, or does that portrait mean really just that moment, that person? Kind of break that down for me for a second.
The thing about portraits and people is a little bit of a painful thing in a way, because when I was a student, of course, as I told you before, I explored different possibilities around photography, and I was spending a lot of time with local people in Newport, and with elderly people, with people in the pub, very local, and I was spending lots of times with them. I was enjoying time with them in the pubs, in their houses, so they allowed me to have access into their life. At the same time, of course, I was studying, and so I was like reading a lot of things. One of those was about is when Susan Sontag writes about the pain of the others, you know, and it's this book she wrote about photojournalism, basically, and the way of showing the pain of the others into media and magazines. So I was reflecting deeply about this idea of making photographs of people or social issues and showing faces of people into magazines just to make profit, to make money. And I was thinking to the other side, this idea of people that buy magazines comfortably sitting into their sofas or to the exhibitions with their nice dresses and looking in a very, most of the time, in a very detached way into the others, people, unknown pain or troubles. And so I know there are like works I adore about this topic, like Bruce Davidson did like incredible works, Robert Frank, Paul Strand. So yeah, I know that. But again, going back to me, to my story, I realized it then when I immersed myself into project like Zen 2. I can like quickly show you on my website. I spent the time in a very difficult area of my city, which is called Zen 2, and I spent time with those people. They occupied with no permission houses, so there's one is climbing there, and I was spending time very close in a way that I was invisible to them, as you can see from this picture. I got the access, but I never wanted to push because you see, I was present in a very quiet moment of their life, and it cost me energetically a lot. And at the same time, in Wales, I was photographing people, and all of a sudden happened that Hedy Dalloway, one of those friends, who had his legs off because of diabetes, we became friends. I was pushing his wheelchair along Newport. He was promising me that we would go to Chepstow to bet on the horse races because it was one of my desires, and he was doing it when he was younger. And we were just waiting for him to have the prosthesis, the two legs. And during this summer, I was doing this work, and this one you're looking at in Palermo. And then when I was back, Eddie had died. I didn't find him alive anymore. So those things together made me feeling like I didn't want to be. I mean, I was very in touch with these people energetically, and I wasn't able to make a step out, an appropriate step out. I have not enough energy to detach myself when I am inside the situations and then when I'm going out. So I'm not able to make exhibitions or to show this work off for my pleasure. And from that, I decided to offer in my practice more like spaces to everyone, to allow everyone to be able to inhabit spaces and reflect about who we are and looking inside ourselves more than looking at the others, pain or troubles or private things. That also happened with another previous project. And going back again to your question about if there's work I'm pleased with, this is a little project made of 10 pictures, but in the beginning there was this little man, Jeff. He was fixing his boat in the river Ask. And in the beginning I wanted to make a project that just about going out with this boat and following the fixing. But we became friends because of me, because I, as I told you, get very attached to people, and people get friendly and they trust me, and I get friends easily. So he brought me in his place, and this is the river, and we got friends. And his wife, Debbie, she lost a leg because of an accident at home. Like she fell down playing with a dog, and she had to have her leg cut. So the story ended up like this. This is a picture of her, like she makes flying an helicopter in the place you can see in the top left of the frame. So, and the previous was like Jeff was flying, playing with a Nintendo Wii. Those games you can like there's a movement detector, and you can like move your arms. So, and then became a little piece of poetry for me when he was like, it took him like a month to fix the boat that didn't require so much fixing. But in all those images, there are like things that are making imagination and joy flying and being light into accidents that can harm life of people. So, and it was at the same time a big lesson for me to be close with them and to realize this is a day we went out, like we were supposed to go out to fix the boat, and he said at one point, because of course Jeff was loving Debbie so much, and he was saying, "Oh no, today we take the camper van and we go fishing." So that was a portrait of Debbie while she was fishing in Cardiff, and it was very interesting. She had this jumper with the octopus and with the written like that in the middle. That really kind of shocked me. And this is one of my portraits I'm very pleased with. I would say this for me, my best portrait. And so, you see that the sea and going out on a boat became a kind of desire, another window in the window, a frame in the frame, became like, a layer to bring up other reflections. So that's how I used it. And in the end, of course, there was a night where the story ends, because there's no more importance into going out in a boat for what we experienced. And it was the night where the red dragon was back in the in the river. But then
it was called the Red Dragon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
That's a little story about the Portraiture and why I decided to stop photographing people.
That's fascinating. It's empathy is very apparent in your approach, but there is a price.
Yeah,
there's a price
always,
and I think I think you did a beautiful job kind of outlining what that price is, and that's fascinating. Just to kind of wrap up, I just have a few questions for you now, and you were talking about earlier this idea of you talk to your friends and writers and so on. You talk about this kind of collapse per se, and what do you? Where are you at with that? Are you seeing it more through your camera? Are you seeing it through ideas? Where are you at with that? I'm curious. It's come up a lot in our conversation today, so I'm kind of curious what you mean by that.
Oh well, it's a world thing. If it comes up with photography, that means that it's a part of reality, because photography deals with reality. You cannot make photography without the reality.
Of course.
So if you recognize it into yourself and outside, of course, because photography is in the middle of this meeting point, that means that it's somewhere. The thing is that if we were saying before about feelings and about the medium, there is a theory of one of those friends which is called like the mind landscape theory, which simply says that during the Paleolithic time, which was when historically we believe like the Homo sapiens developed his skills, his mind, his experience, as we know today, At that time, if we want to think in a simple way, in this young Homo sapiens going around with a little brain, with a brain with no experience, you wake up in a cave and you go out and you start building an experience, and your brain and your feelings, vertically and horizontally. What you do basically is to develop your skills, your ability, your knowledge, relating with the land, with the landscape, with the space. So the theory is very simple, because we believe that we spend so much time, like thousands of years, developing our abilities into relating and dealing with the landscape, with the land. The landscape is a concept, with the space, the natural environment, when it was natural before we modified it completely. So understanding which one is the good fruit to be eaten, or the one that has to be cooked, then discovering the fire, how to catch the animals, how to cover yourself with the skin, how to find the path, how to refine the path, how to go back home. A lot of things that today for us are like just given, because we put like Google Maps and everything is done. But there was a time when we have to develop our brain into those abilities, because nothing was given. So what happened then is that we modified all the reality in order to don't get lost anymore, and to make everything easier and easier and easier and easier and easier and easier. And we're becoming more stupid and stupid and stupid and frustrated, because we used to live in a cave with the nature in front of us, and now we build concrete boxes where we live. We move around inside the steel boxes, and when we die, someone puts us into boxes. Some reflection. I mean, I'm not trying to solve the problem of humanity today, but some things have to make us reflect about our frustrations, our feelings, why we have nostalgia for certain things. We don't know what name to give to them. When you are involved and you stop overthinking on things, because you just are in a box. The laptop is a box. The smartphone is a box. If you start thinking out of the box, but not as a meme in Instagram, as like getting involved into the space, then you can work out more things. Going back to photography, my relation with the landscape is that I like the idea of observing it in order to get back the present day of our identity. So to exactly know where we are, because I have an idea of where we started. So it's like when you navigate, you need other 2 points to triangle and find your point and your direction. So it's a way to keeping it simple, as simple as possible, to bring up the not the right reflections, but to bring up some reflection we can share and discuss about.
That's what inspired this show. It was this discussion about this development, or evolutionary development for the visual faculties that we have. This ability to see, and the way we interpret what we see in order to survive, to get through life. We developed it on purpose. And right now, it just seems like we're just completely inundated by images, to the point to where we're almost numb to them. We don't even see them anymore. And it seems like the role of art in this time is to break through the noise and to communicate real ideas, And so it's fascinating to kind of think about, and I think your perspective on that is really, really interesting. And I keep coming back to this, and I want to share this idea that I've been thinking about a lot as I progress through this journey. I'm meeting artists and I'm having these conversations, and I know this journey is going to change me. Every image that I see, every artist, every idea, but I keep coming back to this. And we referenced it a couple times, is that the image isn't as important as much as it is what you feel. in why you feel that way. And the way you think about an image a lot of times comes from the feeling that you have. And so I'm curious what your thoughts are on that, as a way of being some way of kind of understanding the time that we're in right now. Should feeling be what we use as our barometer for some kind of truth? Like, this makes you feel that way. Why do you feel that way? Do you understand where I'm going with this? What is your thoughts on that? I'm kind of curious.
Yes, it is feeling.
Yeah, because the feeling inspires the photograph to be taken, and then the interpretation. So I'm curious.
Yeah, the feeling inspires many things, for many in many fields and for many reasons. The reason why we invent something is that we can imagine something. So imaginary is very important. And then we just need the curiosity and the ability to raise a question to sort something, We stop asking questions, basically, because everything, all the world outside seems just everything is already done, everything is already ready, is already okay. And even like all those technological improvements now we have, they seems like being into a kind of loop, because if we look deeply into things, apart from like making the example of cameras, increasing the number of megabytes or, megapixels, there's no revolutions. It's just like a continuous restyling and increasing of numbers and numbers. Instead, and that's also why like there's a big trend of many people, like we call it like the vintage, but simply the thing is that we made things that still work and can work for ages and ages, but there is no need for having new things. But so why we have to feel? Because there is someone that wants to feel for us to make profit. We have to have the car that can go inside the city center, so we cannot use our old car. So we have to spend money and feed the market of cars to have the Euro 1000 car, which is a lot of money. And but they only care because you want to live in the city, stay in the city where the life is, where everything is supposed to be. So you have to be there and throw away stuff that you can still look, understand, fix. I have a 1987 car and I fix it my way, myself. And same with the motorbike, which is a 1985. And they haven't spent like thousands of euros. They cost like 2,000-3,000 euros. And there's like a sustainable way, Sustainability is not like buying a car with batteries that we don't know where we are going to throw away in 10 years, Or It can be, but I don't know. The truth is not certainly all into that, Again, I'm not trying to pretend to be like the one that has the solutions for everything, but I want to be. I would never believe that into myself. It would be like very stupid. But I am critical and I'm skeptical,
of course,
and I'm asking questions because simply I put my hands into some stuff I can understand, which comes from 30, 40, 50 years ago, which it can be a camera or a car, and I always go back home. Most of the people I heard like spending 60K for a car, they always have, for example, electronic problems. So you have a 60K car and it gets stuck and you cannot fix because you open it and it looks like a calculator instead of looking like a car, and you have to call a truck to go back home, and that's making us more unable to do things for ourselves, more related and dependent on something that we cannot understand. I don't think this is evolution. It would be great. It would be great to bring that through images, but I don't think it's that easy to translate that. But translating into feelings, the ability of feeling and trusting your feelings that would be revolutionary, I would say, as a starting point to start feeling and trust and being critical and skeptical and trying to understand before throwing away the old one, accepting the new one, just because everyone feels comfortable with that. Because, everyone, the majority of people push into something and we feel more comfort into being like a big mass. This is the mechanism. And this, it's delicate. And I'm not going to say that everyone has to revolution himself, but we should be reflecting more and think and being less scared of what we think and we feel.
Yeah, that is, I love that insight. This is my last question for you, and then we're going to wrap it up. Do you have any advice for anybody out there that is a photographer up and coming? Some quick advice that how they can kind of get started with their own visual language and contributing to the world?
Well, look at the less picture as possible. Get inspiration. Don't look at photography. So
don't look at photography.
No, as less as possible. Try to be true with yourself as much as possible. That helps to find the language and to be true with your feelings. Because the practice is not just going to be the printing of an image or just having it on a phone or the computer. It can give you much more than you would expect. Going in contact with the reality and putting this imaginary line from inside to the outside. And the other thing is to feed imagination, not with other images, but just feed the imagination. So your ability to bring up images with literature, with music, with things that are not visual. So feed yourself, even like talking in a bar, getting drunk with people, knowing each other, leaving the mobile phone at home and just like look in the face people and listen to the other story. So not just being intellectual with the books or music, or going to jazz or classical music concert, even in a fucking pub, getting in touch with life, getting lost wherever you like. So when you're true with yourself, you know the place where you feel good. So get there and find out how you like to translate and to share what you like to translate it to share.
It's wonderful. I think that is a great way to finish our show today. Thank you so much, Pietro, for just showing me your work, showing me the up and coming stuff, and being willing to kind of let us take a look at your desktop. I think that was it's really, really interesting. It reminds me of one of my favorite things to do is to go and sit with a photographer, open up the big box, and take a look at all the prints. And so I had a wonderful time with you today. So thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for everything.
Of course. And thank you so much, everybody, for listening today and participating in our conversation. If you like this content, please like, share, and comment down below, as well as subscribe to the channel. It helps us with the algorithms out there. And if you want to contribute to our show we have that through patreon.com. You can contribute to our show and help us continue these conversations to bring to you. So thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll see you next time.